This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, The Truth, Part 7. When we left off, Bigwood and Stacks had pulled up on Stephanie, True, and Rennie out at the club, back in the villa that Wood was temporarily occupying. He finally shared his truth about all that transpired when he was 8 years old with True, and she showed him yet again why she was the woman for him. She gave him a listening ear, without judgment, and her full support. And like any other man, he was in need of physical comfort. And True was nervous. She tried to put him off, using the fact that she was working on her assignment right before she came to Puerto Rico. But the truth was that she was afraid she was going to be in pain again. And she was pretty sure that her 13-week gestation fetus was going to be the cause. That coupled with Wood's ginormous size. But Big Wood wasn't willing to settle for brain. He wanted and needed the real thing. And True was ready to please her man. Despite whatever he'd done with Amira, he was in fact still her man. And it wasn't just about giving him what he needed. Until she passed him, she was going to get what she needed too. So she threw all caution to the wind and prayed that she wasn't going to end up in pain again and have to explain it to Big Wood. She was pleasantly surprised and ecstatic to discover that making love with her man wasn't painful at all. Of course, there was the adjustment because Big Wood was slinging wood, but he also wasn't in any hurry. He was taking his time, he was attentive, he was intentional, and he was emotional. And True wasn't sure what was happening because she was having an experience she never had before. She and Wood were well matched. While he was 6'5" and 250 plus, she was barely 5'2", 120 max. They had matching libidos, matching styles. She was able to accept most of what he was given. This lovemaking session was a whole new world, and she wasn't sure if it was the result of all of the emotions surrounding the memories from his past, his guilty conscience, or his ego after the salt that Amir had tried to throw in the game. But whatever it was, she liked it, and she let herself get lost in the feeling. She wasn't sure if Big Wood was having the same experience that she was having until he said, "What's happening right now, little mama?" True said, "I don't know, but whatever it is, I like it." And then Big Wood went over the mountain, and True went with him. And the couple just laid there, attached to one another, staring in each other's eyes and crying. And a few hours later, when they woke up in one another's arms, Big Wood went in for round 2. He needed to see if that was a fluke or if they could recreate that. And when they did, he was sure that something was going on. He just didn't know what. They showered together, dressed. True did the walk of shame back to her own villa, changed clothes, and thanked her unborn baby. True said, "Let me tell you something, partner. I don't know what you're up to in there, but your mama needs as much of that as she can get before this is all over. Because if your pops don't come clean, we on our own." Then True met Big Wood at the main house for breakfast. In the main kitchen, Q and Angela were waiting for them. After breakfast, Q and Big Wood had it out, and Angela looked at True and said, "We need to talk." True said, "I heard. And unless you have information for me about what Big Wood did in upstate New York, I don't see any good reason for you to have Manny pull me off my assignment and come all the way to Puerto Rico." Angela said, "This is more important than what Woody was doing in upstate New York, True. After you ladies left my house, Q went through the trash." True said, "He went through the trash?" Angela said, "No, he was taking out the trash, and he saw the pregnancy test that you and Rennie disposed of. He looked at them, and yours was positive." True feigned surprise. She said, "What? Oh my God, I'm pregnant? Angela, you gotta get me that information. It's even more important now." Angela said, "True, cut it out. You are not at all surprised, and I can tell." True said, "You can? How you could tell, girl?" Angela said, "I am not new to this." True said, "All right. But Angela, I need this information." Angela asked, "How is that going to impact what you decide to do about this baby?" True said, "Oh, it won't. I am keeping my baby no matter what. It will impact how I move forward with this baby's father." Angela said, "Once you ring this bell, you can't unring it, True?" True said, "Oh, I know that. And like I told you, I don't ask questions that I don't already know the answers to. I don't check behind a man, because I don't want no man checking behind me. It's about trust and the truth. If I can't trust him to tell me the truth." Angela said, "I get it, True. You don't have to convince me. Manny already did that. He made it clear to me that while you and Wood are both family, you are Lopez's responsibility, which means that whatever you need, this family has an obligation to give you, and that includes me. So I've already gotten you the information that you need. True said, you asked Michael? Angela said, of course not. Lorenzo's in town. He's on a job. I asked him. True said, and he agreed to, Angela said, he agreed to do his job. And like me, his job is to give you whatever you need. He didn't need the details. He just did it. What you do with it is on you. I hope you can live with it. Then Angela took True to Lorenzo's office, where he was waiting. He pulled up the surveillance video on the computer and showed her how to operate the various views. And then he walked out the room. Angela said, I'm going to give you some privacy. Come out when you're done. Meanwhile, Q and Big Wood are meeting with Manny. They're having a discussion about the possibility that the man who victimized Woody and his sisters and the man that he was working with were both working with or for the man that Q had been investigating as an FBI agent. Manny had asked them the previous day if the name Jerry Rouse rung a bell. And Big Wood said, if my memory serves, then I remember Leroy saying something about Rouse really liking the pictures, especially the ones of the older girl, referring to Zyla. Manny said, well, my men were still working while we all were in Miami. And the family took the kids to Disney World, and we were dealing with Nigel's death. Donovan was missing, and Rouse's name came up a time or two. I think that it's worth looking into. He may very well be the head of that organization, or at least high up in the ranks. Q said, if I can find him, I may be able to help close this case, but I also may be able to help the 5 families. Manny said, my thoughts exactly. Woody said, and it'll provide closure for Zyla and Zora. At some point, I'm going to have to head to New York and have a conversation with the fam. Manny said, my thoughts exactly. Q said, I'm going to get Lorenzo on it and see what he can find. When Q headed to Lorenzo's office, he ran into Angela and Lorenzo in the hall. Angela looked like the cat that caught the canary, and Lorenzo said, Q, just the man I wanted to talk to. Walk with me. Lorenzo and Q walked out to the garden, and Lorenzo said, I need some advice, and you're the only man that I could think of to talk to about this. My father's not going to be able to help me. And I'm sure that this isn't a topic that Wood would want to discuss either. Q said, what's up? Lorenzo said, so I've been dating this girl. We've mostly been talking on the phone and chatting online. I've gone out to visit her a time or two, taking her out on a date. Supposed to go and visit her again soon, but I think she's gonna be expecting more. Q knew to just let Lorenzo talk, not ask any questions, because he'd tell him everything he wanted to tell him eventually. Lorenzo said, not all that experienced with women, if you know what I mean. I really like this girl, but she makes me nervous. As much as I want to be with her, I'm not ready for anything physical. I'm committed to waiting for marriage. Q was shocked. Lorenzo was grown. And he knew that the girl Lorenzo was referring to was grown too, and was also Big Wood's older sister. Q said, Zoe, be yourself. If she likes you for you, that won't be a problem. I can tell you how to pretend to be somebody else, how to play games to avoid being in situations you don't want to be in. But you won't be able to keep it up and you won't be good at it. The right woman won't just go along with what you want. She'll want the same things. You won't have to convince her. And you won't have to rely on what she says either, because what she does will speak loud enough. Lorenzo said, but you know I'm not good with social cues. And he said, tell her what you want and why. If she says she wants the same thing, watch what she does. If what she does doesn't support what she says, you know what to do. Meanwhile, Manny and Big Wood are having a conversation as well. Manny said, did you unburden yourself with True last night? Big Wood said, I did. Then Manny stared at Big Wood and said, if you're keeping something from that woman, she knows it already. Wood said, I don't know what you're talking about. Manny chuckled and said, young man, I didn't get to be the head of the 5 families because of my good looks. I've been studying people for a long time, you know that. I know when somebody's hiding something. That's how I knew Amir was dirty. You've got a secret, and it's weighing heavy on you. It's written all over you. And if I can see it, so can True. If you wait for her to ask you, it'll be too late. Meanwhile, Stacks is putting Renni on a flight back to MIT. The night before after the club, when they got back in his car, he looked at Renni and said, be careful how you handle me. Renni asked, are you threatening me? Stacks said, nah. I'm giving you the only warning you will ever receive before I let you fly. Renni said, come on now, you're not about to trip. Stacks said, you said you missed me. You asked me for time. I told you I had work, but if you came, I'd make time. Imagine my surprise when I see my work entertaining the woman that I was making time for and her friends. Renni said, but I couldn't have known that. Stack said, it's not your job to know. It's your job to be where I put you. It's your job to not be a problem, remember? Renni said, I'm not being a problem. Stack said, whose idea was it to go to the club, Renni? Renni didn't respond. Stack said, I'm single because I don't do complicated. In the morning, I'm going to put you back on a plane. We need to end this. Renni said, fine, and crossed her arms. They rode back to the estate in complete silence. When they got back to Stax's villa, Stax said, you can have the master. I'll take one of the guest rooms. Renni stomped inside the master bedroom and slammed the door. About 30 minutes later, Stax had showered, turned out the light, and got in the bed in the guest room. And just as he closed his eyes, he heard the shower turn off in the master bedroom. Shortly thereafter, he heard the master bedroom door open and close, and after a brief pause, he heard the door to the spare room that he was in open. Then he felt Renni standing over him. In the dark, he didn't move. Then he heard Renni say, I know you're not asleep. He did not respond. Renni said, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but I don't like it. You put me on a plane in the morning, fine, I'll go. But I got some things I need to say to you. You flew me out here, left me here for hours, with no information. I am not new to this life. I don't expect you to tell me everything, your every move. But if you want me to stay put, you kind of need to tell me that. I bore easily. Now what you're not going to do is treat me like a queen and then toss me to the side like a petulant child, even if I do act like one sometimes. When Sax didn't respond, Renni said, every morning I FaceTime you at 6 a.m. and you answer. I tell you my plans for the day, all about people you do not know, about reactions I'm running in the lab, what I want to eat if I have time. And you listen, actually ask questions. And sometimes you even have food delivered to me at the lab. And sometimes the food is from places I know they don't have in corny behind Massachusetts. Hell, one time I described a pair of shoes a woman was wearing walking down the street. And the next day they were delivered to my on-campus apartment with the perfect outfit, all in my size. I brought it all in my suitcase so I could model it for you. But anyway, every night when your day ends, you FaceTime me. And you don't tell me about your day, but you ask about mine. You answer all my questions, laugh at all my jokes, and even smile for me sometimes. You stay on the phone with me till I'm snoring in your ear. And we haven't even slept together since Miami. And yeah, I wanted to come here because I needed that. But I really wanted to come because I wanted to see you. So I don't want to go back to school tomorrow and leave things like this. And I don't appreciate you ignoring me. When Sax didn't respond, Renni said, so I guess this is the part where I apologize and say it'll never happen again and mean it. Sax stood up and stared at Renni. And Renni was completely nude and still wet from her shower. Subconsciously, she crossed her arms across her chest and said, what? Stack said, if you're going to say it, look me in my eyes and say it. Renni said, I apologize and it will never happen again. Then she looked down and realized that Stax was completely nude as well, and his man's was at full attention. Then she looked back up and said, what else you want from me? Stax said, I want you to get on that plane in the morning, go back to school, and be clear about what's happening here. Do you still need to see what's out there? Renni said, out where? Outside? Oh no, I've been outside. I'm good on outside. Inside me, please, Daddy. Stax chuckled and said, you said you were saving something for me. I'm gonna need that. Then Renni jumped in Stax's arms and he caught her, pressed her back up against the wall, held her up with one arm, and used the other hand to guide himself in. He held her up with his arms under her legs and slammed her down on his rod over and over again until Renni's head was swimming and her insides were convulsing. When she released, he said, thank you. And she said, no, thank you. He lowered her to the floor and she turned around, put one hand on the wall and the other hand behind her to guide him back in, where he repeated the process. He beat it up everywhere in that room except for the bed. And when she finally tapped out, hours had passed. And then he did something to Renni that no man had ever done, because she never let them. He picked her up and carried her over to the bed, laid her down on it, kissed her tenderly, orally pleasured her until she was screaming, and made slow, passionate love to her. Missionary, while silently staring in her eyes and holding her hands above her head. Renni was captivated. She had no idea what was happening or what she was feeling, because in all the years she'd been active, she'd only ever indulged, roughly, wildly, and aggressively. The closest she'd ever come to a boyfriend was Donovan, and that was really a situationship of convenience for both of them. Yes, she loved him, but that wasn't really a romantic love, and she always knew that his heart belonged to Maribel. But this thing with her and Stax was becoming real. and Renni was scared. When their lovemaking session ended, with them climaxing together, Renni looked at Stacks and said, "You know I'm crazy, right? You just made love to me, and now I want to do that again. Please don't make me kill you." Stacks chuckled, and they fell asleep in one another's arms. When Stacks woke up, Renni was in the kitchen, scrambling eggs and making toast. That was all she knew how to cook. She carried it into the bedroom like it was a gourmet breakfast in bed. She was gonna feed her man, okay? When they were done eating, showered, and dressed, they headed to the airstrip. But on the way, they stopped at Stephanie's villa, where she told Stephanie, "My boyfriend is about to take me back to the plane." Stephanie looked at Stacks to confirm the status of their new relationship, and Stacks just nodded. Stephanie's mind was blown. She said, "Okay, best friend, please don't hurt nobody." Child, Renni got her a boyfriend, and she ain't coming up off him. Meanwhile, in Lorenzo's office, True is watching the surveillance footage. She's seen Big Wood check in, go to his room, leave the room, go to the restaurant bar, order his food. She sees Amira come in. She sees Big Wood take her phone call. Amira ordering her food. Big Wood ending the phone call. The two eating and talking. Then she sees them ordering drinks. She then sees Amira cheeking her shots, an old parlor trick that True had perfected. So she knew it when she saw it. She just couldn't believe that Big Wood didn't see it. While Amira appeared to be going shot for shot with Big Wood, she was spitting him out when she was supposed to be chasing him with soda. Then, when the bar closed, she saw Big Wood barely able to walk to his room, leaning on Amira for support. She sees Amira take his key and open his room door. Then she sees Amira go inside. The next morning, she sees Amira leave, walking like she'd had her insides rearranged like only Big Wood could. Then she sees Wood leave with all his stuff, looking very upset. Then she sees him go to Amira's room, wait outside, pace, hold the wall, fight the air. He clearly does not look like he wants to be there. Then she sees Amira arrive. Her and Big Wood have words. Go inside. She sees Wood leave around 1, room service arrive. Would return around 5, carrying a CVS bag. Shortly after, she sees Wood leave, having some angry words with Amira and pushing her away when she tries to touch him. Then she sees Wood leave, looking disgusted. None of this makes any sense. When Lorenzo and Q return from the garden, they go into the room with Wood and Manny. Q explains to Lorenzo what they need him to do as it pertains to Jerry Rouse. When Lorenzo returns to his office, True is exiting. True has her poker face on. She calmly thanks Angela and Lorenzo and calmly tells Angela, "I need to get back to work. Was there anything else that you needed from me?" Angela says, "I need you to be safe. I need you to take care of yourself. And I need you not to make any hasty decisions, True." True said, "I'm going to wrap up my assignment quickly and safely." Angela asked, "What about Wood?" True said, "I'll confront him when I'm done with my assignment." Angela said, "What about the baby?" True said, "What baby? You know nothing about a baby. You know nothing about these videos. You're responsible to me, remember?" When True turns around, she sees Wood and Q coming, so she takes off. When they arrive, Wood asks Angela, "Lil' mama good?" Angela said, "I don't know." Wood goes in Lorenzo's office and asks him, "What was Lil' mama doing here?" Lorenzo said, "Lopez business." In the hall, Q asked Angela, "You talked to her?" Angela said, "I tried." Q said, "And you can't tell me anything?" Angela said, "I'm sorry, babe." In True's villa, she's packing and crashing out. She's saying, "So God, what part of the game is this? Is this payback for all of the men that I took for a ride and left wanting? Or is this what I get for trying to have a relationship after Bo died? At this big age, you want me to be a single mother. Got it. You got Corey down here telling me to trust you, telling me that I should give you a second chance. But you ain't give me a first one. From the day I came into this world, I was second fiddle. Damn afterthought. Now I'm pregnant by a man I can't trust. This is love. I don't need it." It's hard to trust you.